Alright guys, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the new crafting system, right? So I did a little preview earlier about it, but for those of you who need a little help with it, think you need help, this might be good for you. So we'll talk about some of the crafting. The research is what we'll start with, because you have to start researching things in order to craft. It'll start off with like the Harrier Frigate Mark II. As you upgrade your crafting module, it'll unlock more stuff that you can research. Basically, you can see everything that you can research, just like with everything else, which is nice. You know your prereqs are, what you need to aim for. Now, one of the big things that I'll talk about is a little bit of basics, a little more advanced stuff. So, in order to use Gario Cutter Mark II, you actually have to have the frigates. You have to have the Nighthawk Frigate Mark II upgraded to level 2. Then you also, in order to have this, you have to have the Talon Frigate Mark II researched, which you need the Harrier Frigate Mark II for. So the research tree goes pretty high up. I don't have Garls right now. I plan on getting them in the next riot, but I was just using that for an example. Now, another thing is that with the Eagle, you cannot research the Eagle until you have the Condor researched, which sucks for a lot of people who didn't get it in the last riot. Same thing goes with the Nighthawk frigate. You have to have the level 2 Nighthawk in order to research the Condor. So you kind of have to go all the way up, and if you don't have the Condor, you're kind of screwed because you can't actually research the Eagle yet, which does kind of hurt a lot of players. A lot of people are complaining about that actually right now with the Ragnarok. You cannot research it without the Valhalla, which I don't have, but I have the Midgard, and I went up to Mark III with it. The modifiers on this actually aren't bad. I was able to fit Fighter 3s, 2 Fighter 3s, Spec 5 shield, Trip 2x2, Rear 4, and yeah, I mean, it wasn't horrible. It did 220 DPS, but the modifiers give it a lot more damage. Upwards of like 270 on shields, I think was what I calculated. It's quite a bit. So yeah, if you don't have that Fury, now might be the time to research it. Or next time once you get all this researched, go ahead and throw the Fury in there immediately. Because it's 13 days and something hours, and that you cannot do anything in the higher levels without that. Dread Mark IIs need it. You need the Dread Mark II to research the Zeal Mark II. So if you didn't get the Dread because you already had the Zeal, I feel bad for you, son, but there's really nothing else I can say about that. On to the actual crafting system itself. So you have the carrier. We'll go to this crafting tab, right? So this is all the things that you can see that I've got researched. Once you research them, they pop up in here. So we'll go to Venom Mark IIs, since that's what I'm building right now, and I kind of like the Venom Mark IIs. I'm partial to them right now. In order to make a Venom Mark II, we'll start with these 4 things right here, okay? And then some mineral ore, which most of us don't really care about. I just realized that was there. So the Venom Mark IIs, you need this, or Mark IIIs, you need this pattern, right? So each Mark level has its own pattern. You see right here, Venom Battleship Mark III, Venom Battleship Mark II for the Mark IIs. So you have to have a Mark II pattern, or a Mark III pattern, and you have to have a Mark II Venom in order to attach the Mark III to that Venom. So you cannot just go from Mark I to Mark III without going through Mark II. You have to go through Mark II. That being said, you also need these cores. So you'll see I have 10. I need 2 to make it. So I can make 5 of these. And then you need the parts. The parts are one of the hardest things to get. Really, you get everything in moderation, but I've actually got more patterns, you can see, and armaments than anything else. Parts, you need 120 Venom parts to make it. And then you also need some of these armaments. Now, armaments, it looks like I have a lot, and it looks like 6,600 is a lot. But let's go ahead and get into the Revelation Mark, which is it'll be very popular here in the coming days. So, you see I have 6,600, right? Well, if I was to make 6 Rev Mark IIs, I'm looking at about roughly 1,500, over 1,500 of this stuff right here, the armaments. So I will need over 1,500 armaments to make a Revelation Mark II. And if I wanted to make a whole fleet of Mark IIIs, I would need that 1,500 plus an additional 320 for each one of those. So this 6,600 dwindles really fast. And you will definitely see that. In order to make a Mark III, you technically need 500. Well, 576, we'll say, because you mix this number with that number. So you need 576 per Revelation Cruiser Mark III. So really, I could only make maybe 8 or 9 Revelation Cruiser Mark IIs or Mark IIIs. That stuff goes fast. The Broadsword Mark IIIs, I like using broadswords. And I still do, especially now with this, because the modifier allows me to be able to fit a Siege 1 and a Siege 2 and get a bunch of other stuff on there, so that's nice. Alright, so the Fusion tab. This is a confusing tab to a lot of people because they don't know exactly what they're looking for and what they need. Well, I'm going to show you. So you have the carrier core. I'll use a carrier core tier 3, for example. You see T3, tier 3. You can take the patterns and you can fuse them down into carrier cores. You can also fuse carrier core. You see tier 2 central core for carrier class ships. You can fuse it up into a carrier core T3 if you have 4 of them, which I have 8, so I could make a carrier core T3. You can also fuse down, or no, correction. You cannot fuse, where was I getting at? So we'll go, and you'll also notice something that I noticed the other day. There's a carrier core tier 1, which is really odd because when you go to the crafting tab and you look at the Midgard, it takes a carrier core tier 2 right here. So that's actually really, it's got a lot of people thinking there may be a baby Valhalla in the future. Something to look out for. But yeah, basically that's the crafting tab. You can only craft cores, but you can use patterns and other cores, lower level cores, to make them. So you can craft up with cores, so you can turn a tier 1 into a tier 2 if you have enough of them, or you can craft the higher level pattern down into a lower level core. So you see I have a tier 3 pattern that I'm making a tier 2 core out of. Some materials tab. We'll go over to this, talk about this a little bit. These are all the fucks that you don't give, basically. You've got your different patterns in here, and this is what I'm talking about when I say fucks that you don't give. I have 19 Komodo cutter parts. I don't even have the Komodo cutter blueprint, so that's kind of useless for me, but some people probably do, and that's good for them. Garrow cutter parts, you know, just random parts. And then you also have your patterns, and at the very bottom you'll see the cores, and then you have the armaments. Now the armaments in my mind are some of the most important things because you literally need these armaments on every single ship that you make. You're either going to need these, the Rebel, the Vega, or the VSEC armaments. So I don't feel butthurt when I get these. You should get these about 1 in every 3 ships that you attack. You'll get some armaments, so it's not too horrible. And then you go over to the inventory tab. So this will show you all the strong boxes that you collect, or well, boxes in general that you collect. It'll also show you, these are actually enhanced Harriers that I meant to make and I never did, and now I really don't care to, so I'm going to see what happens with them, but I probably won't use them. And then the Venom Mark IIs that I have made. So you'll also see the strong boxes. One note from the video when I watched it, when they came out, when they released the Vega Conflict crafting video, they showed a brief moment on this slide right here, and what you saw was fighter bombers and weapons and interceptors and random stuff like that. If you go back through and watch the video and pause it at that clip, you'll see a bunch of things in here. So it leads me to believe that we may start seeing some good stuff out of the black market. Some, like Lara said in that preview, some out of circulation tech that a lot of us lower players or mid-level to higher level players, you know, we'd go into the black market and see a bunch of garbage. Nobody wants Gauss driver or Gauss cannons, Mark whatever. Nobody cares about those. What we want are the fighters, well, the bombers, interceptors, burst rays, arrestor beams. That's what we really want, and they wouldn't give it to us. So hopefully we start to see that soon, and there's hope because of that. So yeah, that's basically a brief overview of crafting. I really don't have much more to say about that. Hopefully you guys like that video. Thanks.